How would one best verify anything in this creation of deception and subterfuge? We certainly can't trust much of what we see with our eyes. Our literal senses are limited to the physical, one-dimensional life level, and that life level is completely controlled. Every news outlet and source of mainstream information is regulated, that we are all kept locked down. In essence, very little, if anything, on the television is for our benefit, and certainly not in terms of our awareness. And as if control of what reaches our literal senses were not enough, the subliminals reinforce still further measures of control, adding in a further set of prison bars, and far more subtle and less apparent than the blatant, and increasingly more so, levels of suppression that are becoming everyday experience. For everything is a control mechanism. Every institution that looks so very fine on the surface serves but one function: to keep everyone in creation, to prevent and limit anyone from becoming more aware and recognize their real intent to be with the ears, that which is here and now in the new nowness, and waits to be recognized. The whole of creation is in lockdown effectively, as all the various elements and applications of control feature throughout the various psyche levels. The control of what our literal senses can view on the physical level, the taplining through our agreements to ideas and attachments from the astral, the influence operating up to the mental level, the Callum god on the mental level, whose position is maintained by every idea made manifest through agreement in the levels beneath him. The only ideas that would not support his position being those that reference the ears in some way, that provide a benefit for all, and are created from the individuals whose intent is pure, with no agendas, and into the etheric level, where the subliminal subconscious programming takes place. It is so extensive, so complete in its design, that unless people do make the connection to the ears with the new you sound, and stand now in the new nowness of the ears, then they are on lockdown. They are a part of the idea creating and agreeing with engine, the machine of devastation that is driving creation into oblivion. For once the skies were full of light, but no longer. The skies at night are very black. The sky isn't even real. It's an illusion. It's just an atmosphere, according to the planet it encases, and considering the way the planet is being destroyed, it won't be there for long. The blackness is so extensive now, the black holes increasing in their numbers, all this a reflection of the combined consciousness of the species swimming in its void. A consciousness that is completely restricted, self-convinced, and in total agreement to demise. Effectively then, if you have not made the real connection, if you are just locked into your personal created self, regardless of what you do, or how delightful your created personality, you are contributing to the demise of the planet, as everything here is based on agreed upon ideas that ultimately serve the desire of those that these ideas stem from. The controlling reptilians wish to destroy the planet now. They fear greatly the wake-up of their slaves. Very immature a species the reptilians must be. And so everything on this planet is catered toward this end. And if people choose to remain with the personal self only, then they remain in cause and effect creation, and as everything in their personal lives is a contributing factor to the planet's demise, due to agreements to the ideas that are destroying this planet, consciously, unconsciously, and subliminally, subconsciously, then they will experience the effects of the causes they have decided to produce. They will find themselves returning to this world, and it's going to be about as far from a paradise as you can imagine. So creation as a source of information cannot be trusted, particularly from the limited position of the personal self. Even the Akashic records on the astral level can be tampered with and altered, so must be viewed with caution, assuming one even would be able to access them, as a degree of awareness would be required for this. There's only one way to be certain, and that is to become more aware, sing the New You song, and access what is called the real side. Everyone will dream, irrespective of their degree of awareness. But to the unaware, they are just dreams, generally overlooked, dismissed, and barely recollected. To those who become more aware and sing the New You song, the dreams can now become invaluable sources of information, demonstrations for our awareness, with endless viewpoints afforded by the universal guides. The dream arena becomes now the real side. Anything you might wish to know, you will be shown on the real side. You simply make the request before sleep, and what you seek will be revealed. You do need to recognize that which is being demonstrated. By bypassing the literal self, which will see it through its one-dimensional assessing consideration. The literal senses will see things as they are presented, incapable of seeing that which they demonstrate. The real self, however, if stepped into, will be able to far better decipher and understand the dream imagery and scenes for what they really are. They can't be figured out or considered. More so, we receive impressions and inklings to the extent that sometimes we can be rather surprised at what comes to us as we sit with the dream just experienced and let the impressions flow. Not only can we learn of what is real now in this manner, we can determine the intent of any individual also. The physical level is a smokescreen, a big play, if you will. The unaware programmed masses and their controllers presenting us with their polished roles and fake exteriors. And as they bait us in with their fine words and sharp suits, we in essence can find ourselves agreeing with whatever idea they are presenting, and we become tap-lined by it, and have even more agreement and emotional attachment to unravel and shed from our being. Much of this is very apparent and rather obvious, as I was saying. But even should people be vehemently disregarding the governments and declaring themselves rebels to the system, without the connection to the real universes, they are still restricted to creation. They are still only connected with their personal self, and that personal self is programmed to agree with the destruction of the world, regardless of what they claim, or how loudly they voice their protests. But some of the control is more subtle, coming from sources unexpected, but perhaps not entirely so. Everyone who lacks the connection to the ears and their real awareness is effectively a pawn in creation, an agent that is programmed to the Callum's whims, a puppet to be used and discarded or eaten at any time. And even all our friends and relatives, if they are not standing real, if they are of creation only, they will have agendas, they will have little personal intents, all of which are created distortions, and through association with them, you can inadvertently be in agreement and be tap-lined resultingly. Certainly give them the opportunity, present them with the ears, but if they are not ready, if they dismiss or ridicule the opportunity, then they represent nothing more than a potential snare and restriction, and it's not that we are unpleasant to them or disregard them as such, but more so treat them as the potential tap-line agent that they may be. It's coming to the point where people have to decide what they want, to become more aware or remain with their personal self. And those that choose to remain rigid and self-absorbed, well, then it's rather time to let them be. They will eventually see and recognize this for themselves. Maybe they require a few more shocks to jolt them out of their fantasy worlds, and they certainly will get them very shortly, the way the world is deteriorating. So, in keeping with the obvious, the politicians and governments of the world represent quite demonstrably control, and then the various tiers and layers of control that stem from the obvious become more blurred and subtle. But in keeping with the notion that caution should be exercised with all awareness absent individuals, then it may not even be necessary to go to the real side for our discernment. The is here and now in creation, and we can stand in it and draw our insights and impressions without needing to sleep to do so. But of course, it makes sense that with one of the bodies put down, that of the physical during sleep, then that's one less personal self-vehicle filter that will muddy the waters of our discernment. And how many times have we encountered an individual that seems all charms and smiles, but our intuition tells us quite the opposite. Psychopaths are rather adept at this, except the ones who are blatant in their violence, of course. The most successful psychopaths are the most externally charming people you could ever meet. For this is the means by which they disarm people and then draw them into their world. Hannibal Lecter, as an example from the television,